How is George Floyd different than Charlie Kirk? We didn't march and riot in the streets and burn down businesses. Your people are naturally violent. All right, let's talk about context. Because context is the difference between a tragedy and an uprising. When a man, such as Charlie Kirk, a man who built a platform in defending and reinforcing the existing power structure, loses his existence of another individual, it is a singular, awful event. It's a horrifying moment. It is a crime. It is a breakdown of law and order on an individual level. The system he championed is not implicated in his passing. In fact, the system would swiftly mobilize to condemn it, investigate it, and persecute the perpetrator, which is what happened with the FBI. There is no broader indictment because his passing does not point to a foundational rot within the institutions he spent his life upholding. The machine is not the culprit, a singular broken cog is. So there are no riots, there is no deep mourning, there's no outrage because it is a contained outrage because the target of that outrage is a clear singular and already condemned by the very system everyone agrees should function. Boom. When George Floyd was taken out by the agent of the state, knee on his neck, a badge on his chest, or whether you want to say he has something in his system, that's your decision. I'm not going to argue that. His passing was not a singular crime. It was an illustration. It was a perfect, horrifying snapshot of the system functioning exactly as it's designed to. It was not a breakdown of the system, it was a system working with brutal efficiency. His passing was the logical endpoint of a structure built on centuries of radicalized and racialized control, violence, and dehumanization. The perpetrator was not a rogue individual, he was the embodiment of state power, and the system initially moved to protect him, to justify what happened. That's what happened. To blame the victim, the outrage, therefore, that happened could not be contained to a singular event or a single bad actor. The target of the outrage was the entire edifice of power that made such a passing not just possible but predictable because it happens every day. This is why there were riots, because not because one life is valued more than another, but because one passing confirmed a devastating, pervasive truth about how the country operates, while the other did not. The riots were not about George Floyd. They were every black person who has ever been failed by that system. They were the language of the unheard, the only form of speech left when the institutions of power, the courts, the police, and politicians, have consistently demonstrated they will not listen to peaceful protests, to petitions, to kneeling athletes. The riot is the sound of promise breaking. That's what it is. The collective scream that erupts from the contract of citizenship is revealed to be a lie for the entire communities. It is the desperate, furious attempt to be seen as human by a structure that has always seen you as a problem. That's why it's Black Lives Matter. One passing was a tragedy, the other was a truth bomb, and you don't get to silence the explosion.